Bonjour. And that's all I have to say. It's great to be here. I had a really interesting realization just yesterday. I realized that I looked at the calendar and I realized that I graduated college exactly 10 years ago this week. And I find it so interesting how life works out sometimes, because I graduated college with a degree in theater and acting. And here I am, full circle. I find myself on stage in front of all of you with all these lights. But I'm not going to be doing any Shakespeare monologues for you today. I am going to tell you about some of the experiences I've had in the last few years and about what might happen when you're open to the possibilities. So when I graduated college 10 years ago, I was very optimistic. I thought that my career was going to take off and everything was going to be great. But when I started my life in New York, I realized that the life I was living in college was not reality. So I took a job in commercial real estate to pay the bills. And I found myself going to work every day wearing a suit, working on things that I didn't really care about for people who also didn't really care about what they were doing. And to me, it seemed inauthentic. And so after a few months, I quit. I spent 2 years jumping around from one job to the next. I was in real estate, stockbroker. I sold shoes on eBay, and none of it was fulfilling. And eventually I had to stop, and I asked myself, where is my life going? Am I gonna spend the next 45 years working just so I can retire at age 65? Around that same time, the piano was a way for me to vent and for me to let go. I'd come home every day and I'd play at least an hour or two. And I'd only played for about 4 years, but it was more of a hobby for me. But I loved jazz music, and I loved the way musicians were able to speak without saying any words at all. And to me, that was like magic. And so around that time, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I played piano on the street? So I found a free piano on Craigslist. I put it on 2 dollies. I put it on 2 dollies and I hit the streets. And there I was. It was July 2010. It was a hot summer day. And there I was in the middle of the street pushing this heavy, heavy piano. And I'm sweating. And I had to walk about 5 blocks. I saw people were pointing at me and laughing, and I just felt embarrassed, like, what am I getting myself into? But I found a little area, and I set up the piano, and I started to play for Elise. You know. You guys all know it. And as I was playing, this shirtless guy comes up to me, and he says, "Can I join in?" And I say, "Sure." He pulls out this Brazilian tambourine called the pandeiro, and he goes, "Play something." And I was all nervous. I'm like, I don't know what to play. He goes, "Play anything, just go." And we started to jam. And there we were, these 2 strangers playing music together in the middle of the street. And as we were playing, another person showed up, and he started to rap and singing, and here we were singing and dancing. And so I actually have a 30-second video of this exact moment. There's something about this moment that just got me so excited. My creativity was flourishing. I was meeting people. I was playing music. I ended up becoming good friends with that guy on the right. But here we were, 3 complete strangers making music in the streets. And instantly I was excited. And I came up with this idea. I realized that this is what makes me happy. And if I could do this every single day, I'd be the happiest man in the world. And so I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I took this piano around the world? And that's when I came up with the idea. So I bought a truck on eBay. I took all my savings. I bought this silly yellow truck, and I set it up with carpeting. I had a little cooler for food, an area for my clothes, the piano, and a little cage for my dog, Brando. And everybody thought I was crazy. My parents, they were worried about this. My friends were making fun of me. And at times I thought, maybe this is a bad idea. But on April 4th, 2011, I said goodbye to my parents and I hit the road. And I drove south from New York to Philadelphia. I went to DC. I went all the way down to New Orleans. And every week I'd stop in a new city and I'd put the piano out and I'd play a few songs because that's all I had is a few songs. And I talk to people, I make jokes, I'd say, hello, how are you? And people would smile and they'd drop $1 in my bucket. Something magical happens when I'm playing music on the streets. It does something to the air. Time begins to slow down. People start to open up and they smile. And I realized that this is one of the greatest ways to meet people. And I was meeting all sorts of people. Sometimes I'd see a homeless guy and I'd share my lunch with him and I'd sit there and I'd talk to him and ask him questions. Other times I got invited by CEOs and people that work at startups to have dinner with them and to talk to them. Every once in a while, someone would show up and they'd stay there for an hour and they'd listen and then they would talk to me. And then they would tell me things about their lives. They would tell me their regrets. They would tell me, oh, I wish I could do what you were doing. And I would look at them and I'd say, well, you can do something amazing with your life. It's not a matter of can you do it? It's a matter of what are you willing to sacrifice to make it happen? And so I kept going and meeting people, all sorts of people. Of course, when a musician showed up, I'd be like, hey, let's have a conversation in A major. There was once a time when I had 40 people singing together and we were all singing and dancing in the middle of the street. I started using social media to interact with people who I never met. And I found out that people wanted to come along on this journey with me. And one of the ways I used social media was this day. It was my 25th birthday, and I was in Madison, Wisconsin, and I didn't know anyone there. So I went on this website called Couchsurfing, and I put a message on the forum saying, it's my first time in Madison, Wisconsin. It's my birthday. I've been traveling the world with a piano, and I'm looking for people who want to celebrate with me. I got a message from this guy. He said, come meet us at this restaurant. So I showed up, and there we have it. I celebrated my birthday with 6 complete strangers that I never met before. And they bought me dinner, and they even bought me a cake. After a few months of traveling, I realized that I didn't have to spend any money. I was making just enough to pay for gas and for food, but also I was making a lot of sacrifices. I was counting every single penny and sleeping in places that you probably don't want to be sleeping in, but also sometimes not showering for a couple weeks. And so I traveled the world. I circled the United States. I went into Canada. And after that, I figured, well, the only other place to go is south. So I drove from New York all the way to Costa Rica. And I stopped in 8 different countries. And this posed a whole new set of problems and obstacles. And I had to learn Spanish. Y aprendí español y conocí muchos amigos. And I was meeting incredible people, even though everybody told me not to do it. In Guatemala, I met this man. He was a musician. And he invited me to his house for dinner to meet his family. And there we were in this shack, eating dinner. His wife was preparing dinner on this fire. And we were eating his dinner in corn with his family in the middle of this small town where no tourists go. And it was an incredible experience because he was telling me these stories that I didn't even know, things that I didn't even know happened. After that, somehow I managed to end up on a billboard in Mexico. Kind of a strange photo. But of course, after that, I figured I have to come to Europe and visit all of you. So I flew to Paris, I bought a cheap piano, and I rented a van, and I traveled to 8 different countries again, and I was meeting people, and people were inviting me over, and I was having these incredible experiences. I started playing life like this game of cards, where life was dealing me a hand of cards. And I would simply look at the card and play the card that I thought was best in that moment and see where it took me. And the thrill of it all is not knowing what happens next, because every single day became a discovery or an exploration, or I would meet someone new and make a new friend. And of course there's obstacles. There's always going to be obstacles. Everywhere you go, there's always going to be some kind of problem. And I learned to just accept them as they came and to deal with them. I remember there was a time when I drove by myself 200 miles with no music through a desert. Nothing but the sound of my thoughts, just thinking, what am I doing with my life? I should just go back home and quit and get a job like everybody else. But I didn't. And the thing that kept me going are these people that I was meeting, these amazing people who would tell me things and teach me things. And I look back and I realize that there's no way I could have done all this if it wasn't for all these people that I met. There's absolutely no way I could have done this with all these people that I met along the way. Some people look at the world as a place of fear, where people are killing each other left and right. I saw the world, and I see a world where people just want to connect, where people just want to be free, and that there are more good people in the world than bad people. And one of the biggest things that I've learned about myself is that I felt more fulfilled when I was helping other people, or if I was inspiring people and giving them the courage to find their true destiny. And there's one story that really encompasses all of that. I was playing piano in New York on a spring day, and as I was playing, this little boy and his mom came up to me. And the boy asked, "Can I play with you?" And I said, "Sure." So I sat him down next to the piano, and we started to play together. And as we were playing, this tall man, handsome-looking guy named Brad shows up, and he sees the piano, and he stops, and he says, "Hello," and we start to talk. And just like right now, I told him some of the stories and the people that I met and the experiences that I was having. And we all started talking for, must have been an hour or so, and we parted ways. A full year goes by, and I'm playing in the same spot. And lo and behold, Brad shows up again, and he says, "I've been looking for you for a long time." He said that something interesting happened to him that day. That when he showed up and he saw the piano, and we started to talking, he told me that he'd spent his entire life working in finance, working a job in a suit and tie and living a very closed-off life. But that day he found out that that boy didn't have a father figure in his life. And it was the first time that he ever felt vulnerable. And he was so moved by the story of this boy that he basically adopted this child as his own son, picking him up after school, taking him to get his hair cut, or helping him with his homework, or taking him to Taylor Swift concerts. Brad is now working with Stanford University to develop a program that could help thousands of other students or thousands of other kids who don't have father and mother figures in their life. He told me that I changed his life. And to me, that's worth living for. And so I'm not here to tell you that you have to go travel the world with a piano. I'm here to tell you that go into the unknown. Open that door and explore. Because you can't learn this from sitting in a classroom. And of course, I should play a little piano for you guys, right? Okay, here we go. I recently read the book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And there's a really good quote. "To realize one's destiny is a person's only true obligation. When you want something, all the universe will conspire in helping you to achieve it."